And what's going on? What's going on? This is your host, Train, and we're back on another edition, another Transition Talk Show. I know we've been away for a while, but in the process of being away, we've been doing a lot of um, rebuilding and reconstruction in the and how we're branding the Transition Talk Show, and actually kind of like sticking to the mission on even the reason why it came about. So this segment, man, it'll just be really all me, and doing something that I never did really ever do. When I ever first did the transition show, when we started out on W3 Radio with Win West, and that was not really introduce myself to people or not really allow people inside the world of train on how I got to this place. So that's what we're gonna do, man. We're gonna, give you a little backdrop about myself, and what happened and how it happened in order to begin to create the Transition Talk Show, and why it was something that I believe that it was something that was needed to be able to support individuals who was really living their life inside of their transitions, living their life inside their recoveries, living their lives inside of the healing processes of their life, past all the things like the traumas and all those type things that allow us to, come into turning points in life. So, man, y'all stay tuned, stick in. We're gonna go to a quick video, and then, man, we'll be right back.
I've been through some fucking real shit. So when I win, it's a real win. Every time I win, it's a real win. Oh, I've been through some fucking real shit. So when I win, it's a real win. Every time I win, it's a real win. Oh, don't appreciate who rockin' with you till you get abandoned by who rockin' with you. Don't appreciate the love till you feel the hate. When you appreciate the down, you can feel the break. Niggas gon' turn they back on you. See that you hungry and count racks on you. But oh, when tables turning, you doing laps on them. When you rolling up, they grinning, they barely got cash on them. Remember that. All these faces, I remember that. Hospital chases, I remember that. Cooking up, I remember that. Losing faith, I remember that. Mama died, I remember that. Son died, I remember that. You went around, nigga, remember that. I been through some fucking real shit. So when I win, it's a real win. Every time I win, it's a real win. Oh, I've been through some fucking real shit. So when I win, it's a real win. Every time I win, it's a real win. Oh, don't appreciate that whip till you ain't driving in nothing. You gonna appreciate that real chick when you find you a scum. And you gonna appreciate who care for you when nobody care. I swear you appreciate who there for you when nobody there. I swear these bitches gonna turn they back on you. Set you up and take your last home. Look you in your eye and lie, better get what last, homie. Take your broken heart and break it, just run fast, homie. The lies, I remember that. All the demons, I remember that. Bitches scheming, I remember that. Cause I'm blinging, I remember that. I was broke, I remember that. Lights all over me.
All right, man, we back. That was classic music, artist out of Dallas. Man, big up to classic music. Man, we back on the Transition Talk Show, and like I said, this show I was gonna dive in a little bit more about me, and to be able to allow you guys to know, how the Transition Talk Show really came about and what is actually, what the platform is actually meant for. For me, I was a person, man, where can I start? I was a person, man, who wasn't always this way. I wasn't always living a life of recovery. I wasn't always living a life of trying to be an upright citizen. I wasn't trying to help and aid others and being able to make strong choices for the betterment of their life and to be able to see it. I was a person like a lot of people who lived within the cycles of traumas. From childhood, my traumas they started early, you know, and to not point fingers or anything like that, what I can tell you is that I was a kid who didn't really feel protected. And a lot of it came inside the house. So there was a lot of things that people quite naturally wouldn't know. The only thing that you would know is like how a person's reactions would be outside of the home. And very young, I learned how to fight real early, you know, and I felt like I had to be stronger than those things that I felt once hurt me. So to make it make sense, you know, I was a person who, you know, my parents had me real young in life. They was teenagers. So quite naturally, I grew up in a house with more teenagers and other kids, you know, no father, no male figures, you know, my grandmothers. And I can remember times where I had my uncles who they would, you know, I had this one uncle who would do some, you know, some real harsh things, you know, and I was a kid. So I grew up not really being afraid, but really understanding that I was defenseless. And I can remember one day just telling myself, when I get older, I'm going to kill him. That stuck with me a lifetime. And whenever things began to feel or look that way, I grew up becoming the aggressor. So much to where I call it myself, saying that I was on my demonic path, because I was living in all my shades of grays. I was living in my shade of darkness. And things began to happen when you live a complex trauma life. Is rapid. It's nonstop. But I was a person who can understand it and see it and didn't like it, but didn't know how to change it. So the only thing that I did was try to become stronger than it. But then that made me, you know, act and seem worse than what I actually wanted to put out. So it came to a point to where I realized I wasn't the only one who been through things, but I was, like many, who don't talk about these things, who don't open up about these things, and who don't share. I developed some of my greatest relationships being able to share. I developed a support circle because I was able to begin to open up about some of the things that I probably felt shame about, or just some of the things that I felt made me look weak. And from doing that, so many things began to happen, you know, outside of the walls of the traumas. You know, I believe that the biggest change had happened when I came home from prison. I think it was like 2009, 2010. And the stint that I did then was something that I genuinely believe that I didn't deserve because I didn't do it. It doesn't mean I wasn't doing wrong. It just meant that the crime that was given to me wasn't the crime that I actually did. And going through that, I went through a lot of trials in order to be able to get a sentence that I would have to do, despite whether wrong or right, but because of my background, I had to do a sentence one way or the other. So I had to find out, you know, the best routes. Shout out to Calvin Johnson. He's a person who's been on the show, but he's a person who knows a lot about my life that some people don't know, because he had to be a person to defend me. But what happened was they came at me with 20 years. And it was at a time in my life to where, you know, I was going through my first marriage and looking for a divorce. Just had my second child, my oldest son, and things was rocky all the way around. But fighting for that sentence, I wound up having to go into a mental institute. And the woman who I was with at that time, I had to do something that I regretted, but I knew I was in a fight for my life. So I wound up going to the mental institute, and what they wound up doing was allowing me to be proven not to be competent to stand trial. It took 2 years for them to actually sentence me, and by that time the courts had changed and everything, and a little money put up or whatever like this, and paying off attorneys or whatnot. The sentence got reduced down to 5 years. Um, at that time, I began to see something different because the first time I went to prison, there was nobody there. But this time I had my mother there. I had my ex-wife there, my son there, and I had 2 friends that was there. And I seen people who naturally looked up to me, or who I've seen people who in some way, I was a person who they looked up to. And I seen tears in their eyes, but none in mine, because I was happy with 5, and knowing that because I've been to prison before, it was something that I can do, and it wasn't 20 years, But the crazy thing was, I told myself I can't be able to do time. That's one of the most insane things to be able to do, is to tell yourself that you can do some time. And these are the things that sent me on the road into changing into another direction, because I didn't want to do no more time. I didn't want to do no more time physically. I didn't want to do no more time in my mind. I didn't want to do no more time in my heart. Now, did I understand how to do these things? No, I didn't. Did I know where to turn? No, I didn't. But I did understand that, man, something had to give. And being in prison, I told myself one thing that I would not do is I wouldn't place myself around cocaine no more. Because I went to prison for cocaine. I wasn't even selling cocaine. I was a meth dealer at that time. So if I was to go to prison, my mind was, shoot, arrest me for what I did. Why I'm going for something I didn't do. But the fact was, I was still living a life that wasn't right. And at some point, in order for me to be able to have a true wake up about myself, something had to happen. And I had to accept this. Acceptance is one of the biggest things that help us change and live our lives to a betterment, to a better version, is by being able to accept. So I had to accept, the situation. I had to accept what had to go on so I could do something better or greater for myself. And if anybody want to call in, man, trust, y'all can call in. That number is 469-708-8609. Again, 469-708-8609. You guys can ask me any question you want to. Today, I'm open, But to get back to it, when I came home from prison, I went through this program that was called Project Oasis. And it was a program that was designed to help people who had convicted felons to be able to get some type of schooling, jobs, and housing. For me, I worked the entire program. Well, a lot of people don't know that, I stayed in low income housing. But I did that in order to be able to free myself up and to give myself opportunities, rather than to go back and put myself in a situation that would have me looking at old tools in life and take me on a backward spiral. So going through the program, I worked the program for a year. I did good on the year. Next thing you know, they give me Section 8. So I continuously see how wanting something more, it wasn't easy, man. Like, I was accustomed to having money. I was accustomed to moving how I wanted to move. I was accustomed to doing the things that I wanted to do. And it wasn't easy, making these transitions and taking what I felt was less. But it was really taking what was going to allow me to become better or become greater. So these was the trainings that I began to understand that I had to go through in order to get to where I'm here now. And these are just some things, that people don't know. But if we never open up to one another, if we never talk about the things that we feel is in the closet, then what happens is we're sharing a masquerade party. We're out here trying to look good, but don't feel good. So in the end, we're still passing on something that's just naturally not good. And I didn't want that for myself no more. I didn't want that for the people that was around me. So I knew that if that was to be, I had to make the greater change myself to better myself and to get myself into a place to where I can have some life. Life wasn't selling drugs. Life wasn't jacking. Life wasn't extorting people. Life wasn't shooting at people. Life wasn't beating on people. All these things is what my life consisted of. Is what I knew for a long time. And the results is no matter how high I got, it was a hard fall. And I realized that, man, in life, storms gonna happen. But if they're gonna happen and if they're gonna come with me doing the betterment of my life and not the wrong of it. Because it feels 10 times worse. We don't talk about these things and we don't share these things. And because we don't, we hurt ourselves and we hurt others. The old saying, how they say hurts, that's true. Because it's all that you naturally really know, and you're not doing something to take yourself into a space of healing. I don't knock what a lot of people do, but if a lot of people know me, they know that I respect churches, I respect, different beliefs, but it may not be what I follow. I had to learn for myself. So there's something about you. There's something about you having a connection with a higher power and nothing in between. And you believing within yourself that that's what's naturally true. That's what's actually real, not everything in the surrounding of that. So I had to go through so many different trials, and I call those trials trainings, until I became a better version of myself. And then after getting to that space, matter of fact, we're gonna go to a video, then we're gonna come back, and then I'm gonna talk about getting into a new space or a new phase, like when you get inside of your dream, and then making it to your dream, but then what it takes to live inside of that dream. We'll be right back. Oh, we got a phone call. We'll call her. Hello.
Rain.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, good topic, good subject, man. I am so appreciative that you're online sharing what you're sharing tonight because what you were talking about is a segment I used that what happens in this house stays in this house will be no more. We're all trapped behind that wall and it needs to be broken down. If we start talking about all the things that have been traumatic, we can get out all those bumblebees and start some real healing in those spaces that are empty and festering. A lot of us are full of trauma, and all we do is just fall down 7, get up 8. We never take the time to work through those traumas. And as a man, exhibiting yourself like you do in a kingdom fashion at all times, I just want to tell you that I applaud you. I want you to have your flowers today because you well deserve them. You are a servant leader and you lead by example. Every time I watch you, I see you set somebody free. Your story tonight is going to do just that. So I'm just grateful that you're allowing us to know more about you. This vulnerability is where we all need to be so we can be free.
I appreciate you. I thank you. The thing about me is that I did it so much privately.
Right.
I did it so much in coaching, but I never did it openly.
Right.
And this is the thing that I had to realize, that if you ever gonna be a voice, you have to be willing to make that voice as loud as it possibly can be.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that, secretly or privately.
Right.
I took a lot of pride in being able to assist people, privately, and to be able to see those things. But when you realize, that it's more of you than it's just you asking yourself, what is it more of yourself that you can do? And that was just to be able to give myself, openly, and to be able to do it authentically. Um, I'm a person who don't believe in scripts or anything. I believe in just truly coming from your heart space, and I believe that
Right.
that's the only way that others, can have a true example of how strong that they are too. A lot of people have looked at me as being like, a villain because my statue is my statue, but it's that way because of who I am. I am who I am because of the things that I have been able to overcome. That's not being conceited nor cocky. That's being covered and knowing that you covered to be able to do things in a way that, man, some might not want to do it. And my illustration was always, you may choose to get there by a car. You may choose to get there by a bus, a motorcycle, even a plane. All these things, have their own sense of travel, but it doesn't
Mhm.
go in the same direction of a train. I was never meant
Right.
to go in the same direction as others. But the thing about it was for me to understand that in order for me to genuinely be able to do it, and people knew that they was going with someone and the passage would be safe, is that they knew who I genuinely and naturally is and was. I can't sit up here and make like everything was right. It wasn't. But that right doesn't mean that those things were wrong because they wasn't. It was what I needed in order to make a better me.
Right.
Some
Your own
people,
personal teachable moments.
right? Because when I tell people, man, I had some dark hours, I did. When I really be able to sit and I can talk with people, I can really, you know, uh, meet people where they at and understand where they at because a lot of these places I've been,
Right.
I didn't understand why I've been in those places, but I understand it more and more now because of the people that my life has been able to cross,
Right.
and it's just me just being that just a good servant.
And you're a messenger. So everywhere you're going, there's a message that you're delivering. And then
Yeah,
once you're there and people understand who you actually are, then the message just comes out of you full haul. I mean, like even when I came and talked with you, I was like, I don't know what to do. The radio starts making me crazy. This made me crazy. You was like, just slow down, sis. You don't
right,
have to answer to them. You don't have to, because I felt like be in the media. You even told me take a break from it
right,
and then go back. You know what I'm saying? Get some new thinking tools and then go back.
yeah,
And that was breathtaking because I literally was just pent up with nervous emotion of how our industry changes. I'm talking about urban culture.
right,
And how do we stay in the mix as we age? And my thing was I can't get any younger. Dipping into your 40s, you can't get any young. 30 is not the new 20, and that's really not true, y'all. Um, but just how will I transition with the group that I'm supposed to be with? Because I'm still hip hop, you know what I'm saying?
right,
Forever, for life, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
younger hip hoppers come out and see you and me, and I'm auntie, you unc, and I'm like, I'm still young.
I mean, I had to learn though to appreciate the growth.
Yes,
The reason why because we do become now the new wave teachers. We do now become the new wave coaches. We do
right,
now become the new wave guardians, and some see it, and we have to want to be able to be it and not try to be them. I'm not vicariously
yes,
trying to live in something that I'm not. I'm
right,
choosing to live in who I am so I could be the greater version of this for those that's to come after this. We're still trailblazing. We're still, paving new ways, especially
right.
especially in this era of life now. So I have to really hear and respect what I'm hearing, but I also continues to be the greater example of that just as well. I heard someone say before, How you gonna be an OG if you got nothing to teach the young G's, the
Right.
YGs? So it was like, man, for me to know that people have called me those same things, then I have to ask myself, what is it that I'm doing to allow myself to be called something as such, to have an offering to them that when they get to this space, and those that may not, but you want them to, But so, are you
Right.
creating a lane that they have a way out? Or you create, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. But
Right.
are you actually creating that lane that they do have a way? So that was
Well,
the
we
difference
just
in my
have to
life.
pour from our saucer when we do such things. And that's where I am in my career with radio. Is like, I've done it. I've done it all. I've done enough of it where God said you will speak to the nations. I heard that through Bishop Omar Jawar. And whenever my radio show got to Morocco and over to Italy, I was like, ta-da! And God's like, nope, you're going to roll that back up and redo it again because there's more world I want you to touch. We need to reach the nations
Right, right,
everywhere. They need to know about Dallas. They need to know about the urban culture everywhere. They need to know what our struggles, our stripes are. And if you do that transparent, which is something you do every show, and you bring on guests that they're transparent. I mean, we need those stories so people can move forward. People are sludged in a spot. We all stopped life in 2020. And even though it's 2023, we're all still mucking around on like, what? What's next? What? You
right,
don't know if COVID's out there, monkeypox. You don't know if it's a new strain of the strep virus. I mean, it's every day it's something.
right.
I don't know how we don't see some of that is written up in the Bible. And I mean, it kind of looks the same, similar. Everybody's trying to denounce this part of God and that part of God. And I'm like, hey, you just need to take some parts of God right now and add them on everything you're doing. Why? Why things happen? Because we're not asking God to come in and do anything. So he's leaving us to our own demise. And that's real.
Yeah,
Got to wake up every morning and let him know you appreciate that breath because last night he could have let you go.
yeah, and that's true. I think the biggest thing about transitioning is transitioning outside of the trauma, but understanding that the traumas that we face were traumas that was intended. You can't have life
Yeah.
without it. You know what I mean? But it
Yes.
wasn't meant to tame
The
your life.
wilderness. That's
Yeah,
what I call that.
yeah,
The wilderness.
yeah. So it's not meant to tame you. It's just meant to train you so you can be
Yep.
better than that. So
Yeah.
but when we begin to realize that, I'm acting traumatized, which means that I'm kind of acting like I'm, hypnotized. That I'm not able to really decipher that these things are just naturally not how it needs to be, but I can make that change because I'm the one who's been placed in it. So I can see it,
Right.
I can feel it. So now I know how to create a difference so it doesn't feel that way no more. And I don't
A
have to do it
resolution to the problem and don't stew
exactly.
in it.
Exactly.
Don't stew in it.
Yeah. So there's teachings, that has to happen because identity, you know, is one of the biggest crises that we have. We can't identify. We don't know how to identify with it. We may see it, we may know it, but what does it mean if I'm not able to naturally just call it out? Because
Right.
I haven't been taught these things. So this is the space now. It's about creating a safe space that you can
Yeah.
begin to talk about these things, but also you can talk about it from how it was to now how it is. You can show the greater difference now. There's a lot of people out here that live this life like this, but you don't get plaques and you don't get plateaus and awards, for doing the right things all the time. So you have to be a person that just says it has to be seen. And
Yeah.
if you just be willing to show it, then someone will see it. It will all it take is one. Your job is
That's it.
done. All
This
it
little
take is
light of
one.
mine.
You know.
You're
So,
I
and
got
that's
it.
and that's the goal, that's been the entire goal for the transition talk. So, is just to create a safe space where people can naturally come and they can tell, their side of their story, but also tell the other side of it and how it's looking. To be an encouragement, to other people as well as to receive the courage that you continuously need to push forward. So it's just creating a place where it's different. You know, if I continuously just stay and keep looking at what society deems to be fit, I never fit into the dream of my life.
Right.
You know,
Do you think there should be something done about the heightened amount of violence against women? Or, I mean, I just saw like 3 4 days ago different females that have been injured or killed in either domestic violence, direct fighting violence, or something along those lines. What do you think is driving that?
uh, I can't say I know what's driving it. I won't even try to make that way. But what I will say is that I believe that there are some things that can be done to minimize or even, kind of like do away with it. And that's just, learning what it is to love yourself and
Right.
being able to place yourself around those type love. Because sometimes we get into these things because who we were, you know what I mean? And we attract these things to us. So if I'm loving myself better and I'm loving myself greater, then the attraction should be better and greater love. It shouldn't be something that's going to harm me, or I shouldn't be out here in spaces that could potentially harm me, because I have a greater love and respect about myself. But also on the flip side of that is developing, manhood back in our communities. This is something that, I've been big on for the past 3 years. And coming out with the nonprofit, with Power of the People, that's what it was all about, is empowering men back into the neighborhood. Because I truly believe that we are the pillars of our community. And until we're actually standing up in that matter, then there is going to always be so much stuff that goes on, but you first have to teach men on how to love himself, before he's able to be the lover, of his home and his city, so it's just building these things up, building the integrity up, in one another, building the accountability up in one another, but also placing yourself in the space that is naturally for you, not where I want to be, but where I need to be.
Yeah.
So, this is something that,
Right.
even in my own home, I speak about, it's not always about the wants. It's about what's needed. That doesn't always feel good, but it's going to be better. So we have to realize, what are we doing damaging to ourselves to take ourselves out of damaged situations. And that's how you begin to create different pictures. But if I'm always going, into spaces that's damaging, then at some point I can, quite naturally get hurt. So, I don't have the answers for those, but we just look. I'm a person who's solution based. I just want to find some solutions, and then try to do my best to put them into operation.
Brother, I'm with you on all that. So I just want to tell you, I salute you for everything that you're doing. Continue to pour out like you're doing, because I'm hearing you every time I watch you. I'm enamored at the next level that you're trying to let people see. If we all work in this space like that you've created, transition and transforming is going to be the right direction, and where they'll go with ease versus feeling like, oh, you're just trying to tell me what to do.
Right.
No, I want you to be moved by the spirit that you're going to do it in your own will.
That's
No
so much
judgment.
true. That's true. I live a life. I live a life of peer to peer, from and working in recovery. In peer recovery, which means that it has to be peer driven. It has to be driven by you.
Right.
And when we're driving our own lives in the direction that we want it to go, and we have the support around it, we'll go in some great places. But it has to be driven by the peer. It has to be driven by the person. By not pushed by no one else. It has to be what you want. And when
It
you,
can't be a photo op.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I love you, bro. I'm gonna let you go.
All right, love you too. I
Keep doing
appreciate
what
you
you're
for calling.
doing. You're touching the world. You're touching the nation, bro. I appreciate everything you're doing, for real.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks. We finna go to that video and then we'll be right back.
Alright, stay by my side. One thing I know for sure, you gon' ride and stay by my side until the day I die. Bonnie, Bonnie. 'Cause I got a bag, and you got a bag. It's normally money over bitches, but you're better than cash. 'Cause if I lose a stack, I'll get it right back. But you're one of a kind, and I can do math, I'm smarter than that. I know you're good as it gets. Yes. You will never be my ex. Ain't nothing like a bottom bitch. Without you, girl, I'll be bottomless. Without you, girl, man, I don't know. All I know, I can't let you go. I got my heart broke a long time ago, and you remind me what I got it for. Girl, since I met you, I can tell you were special. I ain't never met nobody better. I'll never ever let another fuck nigga get you, girl. You on another level. 'Cause of you now, I hate lame bitches. Man, I used to try to change bitches. A lot of ones, they just ain't get it. Girl, you blessed, you just came with it. I love how the haters be hating. Hey, when they see me and my baby, we laughing shit at them statuses. You won't bring that shit to our faces. No. Girl, you ain't never been basic. Yeah, you be driving me crazy. Mercedes, chocolate, melanin, kinda poppin' shit. It look like you from Hades. Girl, I got a bag. Wherever you at. If you got a problem, just hit me, girl. You know that I'm coming fast. It ain't gonna change. Girl, I know the same. If I got a problem, I know that you're coming no matter the range.
When you light up, yeah, lights all over
We back on the Transition Talk. So want to thank Nikhil and Nicole for calling in. What y'all just seen, transitional training from Trauma to Triumph. That is a trauma course that I do have out at the moment right now. It just really is something about, being able to deal with a lot of things in order that you can actually begin to live in the life that you really want. And being able to have tools to be able to teach you how to do that. And one of the things that I had came up with was something that was called Feel to Feel. That's FEEL to FILL. Because when you can naturally feel it for yourself and know how that feels, you know now how to feel it properly for yourself better. And that's just something that I wanted to be able to offer out to be able to aid people. We are actually getting ready to do the course at the Martin Luther King Center in South Dallas, and we'll be bringing that to you guys just as well as it begins to come up. But before it ended, I wanted to tell you guys on how it really looks, so when you get your dream and then you beginning to get that dream, but then how to live inside of that dream. Because so many times, we're just taught the dream, or we're taught that we can have that dream, but not enough times are we taught how to continuously obtain that dream. Because you don't want to take your past into your present, into your future, especially when you realize I'm living in my dream now, because it can easily become a nightmare if I haven't begun to do the necessary work on myself. It can easily be taken away because I took it away from myself, because I did not begin to make the adjustments that I needed to live in the space in which I desire to be. So that means that I got to be willing to learn how to release, relinquish, and let go. And so I can begin to learn and work in what it is that I say that I naturally want now. So for me, everything was a training. I'm just blessed to be able, at a young age to have someone mess up my name, and Train came out of it, and for it to be a life journey with me in everything that I do, because I really do understand now how important that training really is. I really do now understand the importance of having your own transition in your own life, uh, and to be able to appreciate all your life, not just one part of it. See, I never would have got into the spaces I'm in now if I didn't begin to truly adore the spaces that I once was in. I'm not telling someone I want you to go to prison, but I'm telling you that if that never happened to me, then I wouldn't be here today. I'm not telling you that I want someone to go out here and to see if you can take a bullet or not, but I'm saying from me being shot, it's what got me here today, because these are things that allow me to have a greater teaching, a greater understanding, and to be able to find a wholeness about myself, about me. The greatest thing that you can really offer someone is the best you. But how can you do that if I'm always focusing on the things that's not the better me? I'm always talking about it, but I'm not living it. And I'm not living it because my life is stuck in the past. We have to learn how to let go so we can obtain the dream. Well, you'll get it, but you want to keep it. And the way that you keep it is by, man, not taking yesterday into your today. Whatever it was for you to learn, you already learned it. It's instilled. You can push forward. A lot of times we're not told this, so we don't understand this. So we have to learn how to place ourselves in the surrounding that best fits us. Sometimes it's not going to always be family. Sometimes it's not going to be that person I call my best friend. It could potentially come from someone I never known. And that person begins to be one of the greatest people that actually was the uplift of my life. So I have to learn how to be open. I have to learn how to stay open and not close myself out thinking that something is this way or the other. It's going to be how it needs to be in order that you become who you must become so that you can be. I mean, I appreciate all you guys that took the time out to join in on the show today. I hope y'all like the new look and everything, you know what I mean? I do. So I really do just, man, hope you guys understand what the show is about, understand the direction that we're going into the show. And anyone, who wants to come on, get in contact with us. You can email us at the Transition Talk at gmail.com. Again, it's the Transition Talk at gmail.com. We also are offering a promotional packages for small businesses and even artists who have stories. Anyone really, but it's mainly small businesses, nonprofits, and I want to be able to open myself up to you and allow you to be able to have a place that you can be seen about the work that you're doing. We have to begin to learn how to support one another. And we got to understand what support actually means. In our community, we have it bad taking from one another rather than being givers of one another. And if we begin to start to do these things and just try them out, we'll learn something different. I know so many times we feel as though, it's us who do it to us. Well, if that's the case, then it's us who are going to have to be the ones that change what happens to us. So that means we have to take an opportunity to try to do something greater or something better and place ourselves in the surroundings of those things that's trying to do that. And I really do hope you guys see the Transition Talk Show as being one of those platforms that allows you to be able to do that. Appreciate you guys for joining in. Join in next Sunday as we'll have our first guest back on the air. And see you then.
When you light up, yeah, lights all over me.
See, all the pain I could feel off the game, I can make another nigga come up off my downfall. Trial and error, man.
This is an MB13 production.
Pain in my soul, heart of a lion. Bitch, I'm the truth. These niggas lying. When it rain in the streets, it pours in the streets. When it rain in the streets, it pours. Pain in my soul, heart of a lion. Bitch, I'm the truth. These niggas lying. When it rain in the streets, it pours in the streets. When it rain in the streets, it pours. Bro got shot down by the law. I just wish a little see them more. I used to couldn't see myself going far. Now I'm so far, I probably touched the star.